Hey everyone, NicMakesPlays here, and I'm going to go over the Nocturne Diana deck I used to get rank 1 Masters North America in Legends of Runeterra. Pretty popular deck from the new set, and a lot of people asking about it because people don't know if Diana and Nocturne are good or bad. They're very good, by the way. But this deck's a lot of fun. It's pretty complicated to play, but once you get the hang of it, it's super rewarding. It makes it like more fun because there is a learning curve, so when it clicks, it feels amazing. I'm doing this video in one take, so if you have any questions, let me know. Comments below. And I'm going to be 2 separate videos. This first one's going to go over the deck. It's a guide. It'll be like what all the cards are for, why I play the cards, how to mulligan, like just pretty much everything you need to know about the deck. And then I'll make another video tomorrow about like it'll be a gameplay video, me playing, and I'll just go like turn by turn or action by action saying like why I do things and why I chose to pass or why I chose to summon or hold a card or play a card and stuff like that. But let's just dive right into the deck. Make this as straightforward as I can. The deck has a lot to be talked about, so hopefully this is a good, straightforward, detailed video. Alright, so first let's go over the cards. I'll give you a look through. We have Fading Memories, Lunari Dustbringer, Slowly Soldier, Stygian Onlooker, Diana, Lunari Shadestalker, Pale Cascade, Stalking Shadows, Unspeakable Horror, Crescent Guardian, Doom Beast, Lunari Priestess, Nocturne, and Cygnus the Moonstalker. So let's go into the cards. Why I play each, what they're for, just some uses, some combos. Then I'll go over like how to mulligan and the general playstyle of the deck. I guess the first thing I want to make really clear in this video about this deck is this is not an aggro deck. If you try and play something like an aggro deck, you'll have some success, but you'll be having a lot of problems running out of steam and during the late game. This is a mid-range deck. It is a completely mid-range deck. It is not an aggro deck. It's just a mid-range deck that has the ability to put on pressure or swing tempo like very fast, but you have to plan it out and do it the right times. If you think this is an aggro deck, you'll have the wrong mindset. It's a mid-range deck, but it can be aggressive, which we'll get into that later. But let's go with the cards. First card, Fading Memories. Pick a follower, create an ephemeral card of it in hand. So this is a Nightfall trigger. I guess first thing I should do is go over Nightfall real quick. Nightfall. Bonus if this card is not the first card you play this round. So basically if it's the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, as long as it's not the very first card you play that round, you get these effects, right? So the whole deck's a Nightfall deck, so you want to be making sure you use things to get these effects, right? Fading Memories, 0 cost burst spell. So you use this just to activate your Nightfalls. This card's very versatile, so it's one of the most skillful cards in the deck because you can do like almost anything with it. You can pick your opponent's followers to create. So basically when you use this card, you want to save it for a turn that you want to activate your Nightfall for 0. So you don't want to use this really a turn you've already activated your Nightfall. You want to hold it, especially early game. Like later in the game, if you have like so many cards and it's deep in the game, you can use Fading Memories however you want. If you already have Nightfall, it's fine. You can just use it for whatever card you want to pick a follower, make it, and use it for like the actual game that's happening. But at the beginning, you want to hold it for just Nightfall triggers. You don't want to run out of Nightfall triggers. You want to always plan your next 2 to 3 turns of Nightfall triggers in advance, for sure. So I'd say that popular cards that you would use early game, you can use it on Duskbringer, because Duskbringer is a cheap Nightfall trigger as well. So it's like a Nightfall trigger gives another Nightfall trigger, which gives another Nightfall trigger because this card, it adds this card to your hand when you summon Riot Duskbringer. We'll get into that, which this is also a cheap Nightfall trigger. You can use it on Soldier, same thing. You can use Onlooker to push big damage. This is a big difference of Fading Memories. It's only, you don't do this regularly. This is like if you have the opening, like let's say like they're gonna tap out of mana and you can just summon 2 of these, like, and push for 8 damage. Like that's a pretty big swing. So there are times where I do on this, but it's a game by game basis. It's not really like something you do regularly. But these 2 are pretty regular. Just a Nightfall trigger, turning more Nightfall triggers, so you don't run out. So you can plan ahead with these. Later in the game, I really like to use it on Doom Beasts because Doom Beast drain 2 from any Nexus. If you use the Fading Memories on this, it's just 2 more drain, which is really good. And you can use the ephemeral copies as blockers. So since they die, ephemeral means the unit dies when strikes the round ends, so they're only there for 1 turn, they die. But you can still use it on defense because on like later in the game, like they can't really afford in certain matchups to like not attack. So you just play the ephemeral version on defense, drain 2, and then they still have to attack you, and you get full value out of it by blocking like a 3 health unit, or they just pass, and then they end their turn, which is great. You can also use it offensively, as I said earlier. You can, even though these do die at the end of the turn, I mean 4 damage is 4 damage if they don't block it. And I also use on Lunar Priestess sometimes because late grindier matchups, this is really good to invoke and get powerful cards. If you don't know what invoke is, pick a celestial card among 3 created in hand. Basically, it gives 3 celestial cards, which are extremely powerful cards that can only be created through this mechanic and add to your hand. You can later in the game, you can use Fading Memories on these in slower matchups to like finish off by getting huge, powerful creatures with invoke. But yeah, Fading Memories. Inari Dustbringer. This card is one of the best cards in the deck. This is something you always want to mulligan for because it's when I'm summoning, create a Dust Petal Dust in hand, and Dust Petal Dust says then it's a 1-cost burst spell. The next unit with Nightfall you play this round costs 1 less. So this card's pretty crazy. It's a Nightfall trigger that gives you a Nightfall trigger. That's pretty much exactly what you want, right? And it has a body, unlike Fading Memories. So this is like a Nightfall trigger that can give you one, but you know it's ephemeral and it's not a body. This is like a blocker. It's a body, can attack. That gives you this. This is pretty cool because let's say you have an easy example. You don't do this often, but it really just highlights things you can do in later turns. You can use spell mana as creature mana with this card, and I'll explain why. Let's say you have 3 regular mana and 1 spell mana, right? And you have a Nocturne in hand, right? You normally can't play Nocturne on 4, right? Because you only have 3 mana. But if you use the spell mana on this, it just counts the next unit you play with Nightfall, then this will become 3 mana. And you can play things like, you basically use your spell mana as regular mana. I don't use that often with Nocturne, because I don't really play them that early, play them later. But a good example would be, let's say you have Diana in hand and Lunaria Shadestalker, and you want to play both. But you only have 3 spell mana. You only have 3 regular mana, right? So you have 3 regular mana, but 4 costing creatures. You can use the Dust Petal as your spell mana to make this discard to 1, and then you can play this and then play this, and you get to play 4 mana of creatures with only 3 creature mana in 1 spell. So I hope that makes sense. It turns the spell mana into the creature mana in a lot of instances. Next we have Slayer Soldiers. Card's pretty straightforward. It's a Daybreak, so give me +1/+1 this round, and you can use this as your first card you summon for the turn. It just becomes a 3/3. It's really good on offense and defense, because on offense, it creates a 3/3 with pressure. If you play it like the early turns, like say you play turn 2, they usually have to respect it. Either take 3 damage or you get the trade. Something cool is that if they block with like a 2/2, then you get big value. And the extra +1/+1, it's good. I shouldn't explain it's good. But also on defense, like you play in a 1 mana 3/3. I mean, a lot of times they're 3 mana cards or 2 mana cards are 3 attacks and 3 health. So this card gets to trade very favorably, and they usually have to pass, so they can't like trade well. So this card's absolutely amazing. You usually start off with them. It's a pretty straightforward card. You usually always want to mulligan for Lunaria Dustbringer or Slayer Soldier. I do want to note that this is where it gets a bit complicated, and a lot of it will have to go into gameplay, but I'll try and help my best, just this deck guide, to explain to you guys how to play these. I usually pass. If I have this, I play it turn 1. But a lot of times, if this is my only activator, I pass until I have until it's turn 3 and I have full spell mana. Because let's say like it's turn 1, right? And this is your only Nightfall activator. You don't just want to play it turn 1, because then the rest of your hand, let's say the rest of your hand is like Diana or like Crescent Guardian, you're not going to be able to activate any of these effects moving forward, right? So, again, this is what I'm saying, another reason don't play like an aggro deck, because you don't just want to like, oh, 1 mana 3/3, I'll just play it down, like, because then you will have no Nightfall activators, your whole deck won't function, you won't be able to activate your effects, and you'll just lose. So that's the big issue. I think people probably just draw this, and especially I almost never play this turn 1, pretty much ever. But I play against a lot of Nightfall players, or I've seen a lot of Nightfall players that just play this turn 1, and then they're out of activators. Even as a 2, it's just not how the card really, I feel like, is meant to be played, at least the way that I play the deck. So yeah, you want to hold this as a Nightfall trigger. Thing is, even if you don't play turn 1, it's still a 1 mana 3/3 later. So the first few turns, I'll play this turn 1, but usually in this deck I just pass my first few turns. Sometimes if you're going second, you can maybe play this and then this, depending on your hand, but usually I pass my first few turns to around turn 3. Depends if I go first or second. But just don't run out of activators. You need these. You'll get the advantage back. We'll get to Diana in a second and explain some stuff of how you get advantage back in playstyle of the deck. Diana will make it all come together. Third card, Stadium Onlooker. Again, I do not play this turn 1. I rarely play this as an activator. I'd much prefer to get the Nightfall effect. You can use it to activate if you have to. It is only 1 mana, so like mid-game, if you just like, okay, well, this is my only Nightfall activator for 1 mana, just play it. But Fearsome 4/1, 1 mana. It pushes big damage. A lot of times they can't block this. And even on defense, it's a 4-attack unit, so let's say it's mid-game and they play like a 4-drop that has like 4 health, or like a 5-drop that has like 4 health. You just play this, and then they can't attack you. Because if they do, they're trading a 4-5 mana card for a 1 mana card. And on offense, obviously, there are times early game where, let's say it's turn 2, and again, I have these two, and they play a card that can't block the Fearsome or block this. Like, let's say they pass turn 1, turn 2, they play like War Chefs or something. Then you can go, okay, summon Slayer Soldier, summon Stygian Onlooker. Then they either take 7, or they have to trade with the Soldier and lose their War Chefs, which usually it would be game because they're so far behind tempo at that point. So usually they'll take 7 damage straight up, and then are 13 on turn 2. So that is an instance of when I would play these early. But otherwise, unless you have those like scenarios where you know they have to take 7 or lose a card, then you want to hold these. But yeah, very good, explosive. All right, let's get to Diana. This card is absolutely amazing. This is like one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best card in the whole deck. This card is so good. So, here we go. Nightfall, give me Challenger this round. She has quick attack. So basically, you play a card this round, and then she's second, or as long as it's not the first card played, you get to kill one of their cards for free. It's so good. Like, so basically, I pass my first few turns a lot of time. Like, let's say I'm attacking on 3, right? We're attacking on odd numbers. Don't want to play anything in the first turn. So let's say I have Slayer Soldier. I'll play this, but I don't want to play anything in the first turn because then I'll lose my Nightfall trigger. So I'll pass. Turn 2, I probably won't be able to use any Nightfall things again. Like, I'm not sure. Like, on turn 2, if this is my hand, like, I don't want to waste my things again. So I'll usually just pass again. And then I have 3 bank spell mana. And then turn 3, you'll play Slayer Soldier. So this is where, like, it's against mid-range, not aggro. Because a lot of people might have already, like, just played their guys and then kind of wasted the resources. So you pass the first 2 turns. This is a regular occurrence. Unless you have this, then you can just play that and get this. But, so turn 3, you play Soldier. And then you play Diana. And then you get to attack with a 3/3, kill one of their guys for free. And then you get the board control. So, yeah, they might have played 2 cards at the beginning, but you just push in for 3 with the Soldier, and you clear one of the cards with Diana. Then you have field control. So it's like, this deck is very swingy in tempo, where it can take over the field very easily and put on huge pressure, and then once you have the board, you just choke them out. Like, you just don't let them come back. Like, so Diana can give you board control very easily, and then they usually can't kill her, because they have to have a kill spell. But let's say they're not in a region that has these kill spells, like a mid-range deck. As long as they can't kill her, then you can just challenge something else next turn by leveling her up. She's very easy to level up. And even if they do kill her, it's fine, because you already got your free +1 by like killing one of their cards for free with the quick attack challenger. So they're behind a card, and they're constantly fighting for field control, and you just keep pushing, and it's very good. This card, once she's leveled up later in the game, very easily, Nightfall, when you activate Nightfall, give me +2/+0 in challenger, very easily becomes 7 attack. 5/7 attack, challenger, quick attack. This card is absolutely phenomenal. Early, mid, and late game, very, very powerful. And then Pale Cascade is one of the best chance spells. I'll get into this card next. One more combo with Diana early game. I just want to say, let's say you're going second, or you're attacking on second, right? You play Lunary Dustbringer on 1, right? So Lunary Dustbringer on summon, give me Dust Puddle in hand. You get this Nightfall, cost 1 less. Then turn 2 goes, and you can actually play Diana with the Nightfall trigger on turn 2. Let's say they played Slayer Soldier. Like, you play Dustbringer, right? Or they play Slayer Soldier, and then you play Dustbringer, okay? They attack, you let it go through, you take 2. Next turn, you just use the Dust Petal. Then you play Diana, and you get to kill their Slayer Soldier for free. And then you have your Dustbringer attacking in for 2. So, because usually they don't want to play anything else, because then you'll just hook their stronger card. So, depending on the defense. But the point is, you got a free kill that early in the game. And then they're behind tempo the entire time. Like, you just got a free kill, and they're down 1 card, you have field control. It starts off the game very well. That's an amazing hand. Anyways, Shade Stalker, 2/3 elusive, lets you threaten some chip damage. Elusives are just good early and mid game, and they can finish off late game if you have enough damage with them, like multiple Lunary Shade Stalkers. Usually I play this during idle time, where it's like I have Nightfall activated and I have 2 mana, I'll just play it. 2/3 is actually a decent blocker. It actually is annoying for a lot of 2-attack creatures, so I block with this, even though it's an elusive. People think I won't block with it when they attack, and then, or some people might, I don't know. Usually I just won't attack, but if they do, you get to block it. Very good because these attacks, like the Diana and this, they all level up Nocturne. You've attacked with 5+ Nightfall. We'll get there later though. But yeah, pretty overall good. Usually it just fits the mana. It's a very cheap Nightfall unit. Activates Diana, activates Nocturne and attacks. So you just play this when you have the tempo. A lot of this deck's about tempo and board control, so you don't want to waste your mana. And that's why I think a lot of people play this card a bit early, but I'll get to that later too. So straightforward, 2 mana, 2/3 elusive, right? All right, Pill Cascade. This card's phenomenal. Very happy with this card. It's like one of the most fun cards ever. I love this card. I'm so happy they made it. So give an ally +2/+1 this round. Nightfall, draw 1. So basically this card's just a versatile card that you can use defensively, and then you draw a card to gain some extra health. Let's say they Mystic Shot Diana, you can give her 1 more health and then draw a card. This is very good offensively because a lot of times they won't think you can like level up Diana. Let's say she's like or you can just use an easy level up for Diana. It's like, let's say she's leveled up but you don't have the Nightfall. You can just give the ally +2/+1 to like Shadestalker, and then level up Diana, and then you can hook something so you get to kill one of their creatures by Diana, and then push for 4 damage. And then they're taking like they're losing their field. You're pushing in damage directly. Like they're behind on all fronts. Like they have to constantly try and then they're forced to try and get the board back because they're like, okay, well if I don't get the board back, then I'm taking way too much damage. So they put their cards on the board, and then next turn you just kill them with Diana again and attack for more elusive damage. Very good. There's like infinite things you can do with this. I also like it a lot with Crescent Guardian. A lot of times I'll like, let's say play this, and let's say they like try and kill it with like I mean, there's like so many different random scenarios. Like get excited or like Thermobeam or something, and then you just Pale Cascade it, and since it's Overwhelm, you draw. So Pale Cascade lets you draw a card. Then Crescent Guardian lives and it attacks for extra damage. It was already a Nightfall 5/3 with Overwhelm, and it becomes like a 7/4, right? So then you're just pushing for your card lives, so you get a +1 because they lost the removal spell, but your card still lived, right? So they lost the card and didn't kill anything. Then you draw a card off the Nightfall, which is great, or off the Pale Cascade, and then you push for 7 Overwhelm. It's very good. We'll get to that later though. So yeah, this card's very versatile. You'll get used to it. Stalking Shadows. This card this and Diana are probably the best cards in the deck. Let's talk about Stalking Shadows, because this card is probably one of the more complicated cards, but very good no matter which way you use it, honestly. Like even if you like were to try and use it wrong, it's still amazing. But let's try and make you use it right, because you'll win more. So there's two parts to this thing. I guess I'll start with the ephemeral part. It's kind of like Fading Memories, where you pick a follower off the top of cards in your deck, draw it, shuffle the rest of the deck, and then create ephemeral copies. So it gives you a follower top of your deck that you pick, and a copy that only lasts for 1 round and then dies, right? So this is very good for defense because you can play like the regular copy on offense, so you get like to stick it on the board, and it like gives you field control, right? Or helps you, take over the field. And then you play the ephemeral one on defense, and then they can't attack with a lot of their threats because you would just block with the copy that's going to die anyway, and they just be losing a card for free because you're blocking with something that was going to die anyway. So they just don't attack. And it's amazing. One thing that's really good with this card, considering it makes duplicates, is Doom Beast, because drain 2 from the Nexus. So if you Stalking Shadows Doom Beast, you get 4 drain, which is a lot of reach. Really changes the tempo of the Nexus health. You can use it on Priestess late game to get double invokes. You get a blocker that will invoke you something, which is good. You can use it on Sigil Unlocker to push for big damage. You can use it on something as simple as Dustbringer or Slayer Soldier to make sure you have 2 Nightfall triggers the next 2 turns. Oh, I want to add, this is a Nightfall trigger itself. A lot of times when I pass till 3, like I've been saying, a lot of times I pass till 3, you have Stalking Shadows, and then you use Stalking Shadows as your Nightfall trigger. Like this is a 2 mana burst speed, so this card is like perfect in this deck because it's a Nightfall trigger that gives you a +1 because you get 2 cards for 1, because this card is 1 card, it gives you 2. And it lets you, the duplication is so amazing because it lets you pick, like, so let's look at the top 4 cards of your deck, right? Sometimes it's 1, 2, but sometimes it's 3, and you have 3 different options of cards to pick from. You can just pick a card that caters to the situation you're in, but it's 2 of them. Like, let's say your hand's amazing, but you just have no Nightfall activators, so you can't do anything. But then you use this as a Nightfall activator, so it already gives you that turn. Then you get 2, like, and then these pop up. You get 2 more, and then your really powerful hand gets to never run out of steam, and you can just activate everything the rest, like the next 2-3 turns. Or let's say you have a lot of activators, but you don't really have the creatures that are powerful with it. Then you could get Shade Stalker or Crescent Guardian to start like taking over the field and doing some damage. So very good. I like to note also with this deck, like I think people overvalue, or not overvalue, but a lot of times mid game, I just want to like put units on the field that are like reliable and like well rounded. I don't want to like play Stygian Onlooker and push for 4-1 because a lot of times I'll just block it, and it's like you're just playing like an average. It's like nothing special. Or I don't want to play Lunar Priestess early and then invoke. Well, sometimes I will, but a lot of times mid game I don't, because then it's like you're playing a 2-1 for 3 mana and you're very behind on tempo, and they'll just regain. They'll control the board because they're going to put stronger things with their mana or do more efficient things. This is more of a late game card, but I think that sticking Shade Stalkers and Crescent Guardians on the field is something I like to do mid game a lot. Like this is annoying to deal with, even defensively, for them to have to deal with if they're attacking, because yeah, if you attack, he's a 5/3. He'll put in some chip damage, and then he'll get blocked by a 3/3, which is good for tempo. But a lot of times, like mid game, if you just stick down like a Crescent Guardian or two, like that's 5 attacks. So if they attack with anything with 5 or less health, like bigger units, like again 4 to 5 drops, you can just block them. So like I like to try to kind of get the board control by putting on Shade Stalkers, just a solid 2/3 unit just to attack. Like I can take attacks and then push back for damage. So I don't really mind their attacks. I can just do it back to them. I can do the Crescent Guardians, which can push for damage, or they can block well. And then I start ripping apart with Diana. Like, so we'll put it in like a scenario. Let's say we're both playing mid-range. We're both just sticking units on the field. Like I'm putting like Shade Stalker, Crescent Guardian. They're playing like War Chefs and like Lulu and stuff. Then you play Diana when they don't see it coming. Because you usually want to hold this like till near the end, so you don't want them to know it's coming or know you have it. They have to constantly be guessing when you have 2 mana left. Like, okay, does he have Diana or does he not have Diana? And you can put them in these like bad situations where you play Crescent Guardian. Like say you have 5 mana, you play Crescent Guardian and you have 2 more. Then they're like, man, like I want to commit more to the field so I don't just get like struck by this Crescent Guardian along with this other stuff very hard. But if I commit something good to the field, he can just play Diana and hook it and kill it, right? So then they're like, okay, well, even if you have Diana or don't have Diana, if they're thinking about it, it screws them up because it's a hard punish if they summon something good and you just kill with Diana plus like Pill Cascade or something. And if they don't, then you just attack Crescent Guardian, whatever else you had. Like, say you had like this or this. That's like a lot of damage, right? So it's very good to just kind of like get field control, and then you slowly whittle away their field with Diana, and they can't do it back to you because they don't have Diana. So unless they're running Diana, but very good. But yeah, last thing, yeah, Lunar Priestess near the end game. Early game, it's good to get the Nightfall triggers, or the Nightfall triggers, Dustbringer and Slayer Soldier, so you don't run out the rest of the game. So you got 1 card you'll never run out of. John's Nightfall triggers counts itself as a Nightfall trigger. You get Doom Beast for reach, but yeah, pretty good. All right, next card, Unspeakable Horror. This card's just generically good. Drain 1 from anything, create a random Nightfall card hand. I usually use this on creatures. You want to use it on 1 health creatures, or even block in ways where you can set up a 1 health creature to get good value, because that's a +1, right? Using 1 card, which is Unspeakable Horror, to kill one of their cards, a unit, but then it adds a card to your hand. So you're losing your removal spell, they're losing their unit, but you also add a card to your hand, so it gives you advantage. A lot of times when I'm pushing, I think a lot of people, it is cool this card does reach the Nexus, and you can use that super late game, but I don't really use that often, unless it's the right thing to do. Like let's say you have like Doom Beast plus this, and it's going to be game, like you just do it, next turn play Doom Beast or whatever, I guess. So there's scenarios where if you, especially versus like Swain Twisted Fate, you know they can't heal. Every damage really matters a lot, unless they like steal some of your cards with Nab that heal. And point is, sometimes you do drain. But you just on their opponent's unit, even when you're trying to push damage, like let's say you have like Nocturne, right? And you're gonna make a huge swing this turn, and one of their cards is 1 health. If you drain one of their blockers, like units at 1 health, kill one of their blockers, you're doing more damage than the 1 damage to Nexus. Because instead of doing 1 damage to Nexus, you're opening up attack, let's say for this, that does 2 damage. You're actually doing more damage by killing their unit. So basically just kill a unit, add a card to your hand. Very amazing. Pretty good card overall. Can be used for drain too during late game, but yeah, this card's pretty straightforward. Punishes certain matchups extremely hard, like Lulu Demacia, like it kills the Fleet Tracker, the Young Witch. Every matchup, I feel like for the most part, it has something really good that it can do. So even as simple as like a Save Bench Trundle Acel, this isn't like phenomenal, but this just shows that the card is just good, even if you don't really do much with it. Let's say you just wanna like sometimes if you have a lot of mana, but not that crazy of a hand. Let's say you have like 7 mana versus Trundle Aesol, and you have a Nightfall trigger, and you have, let's say, a Shadestalker, but you don't have anything. It just creates a random card that could be good. So let's say like you just use it on their next, use a Nightfall trigger, use it on their Nexus, and then say you add a Duskrider to your hand or a Shadestalker. Then that's pretty good. You can push for the double elusive damage at that point. Crescent Guardian's a 5/3 if you get that. It can add Pale Cascade to your hand, which is pretty crazy because this card's amazing. If you do that, it's very good. So yeah, pretty straightforward card. All right, Crescent Guardian. This card is just kind of like what you play to like take the field. Like, let's say you just like have a Nightfall. I keep saying like you have a Nightfall trigger. You just play this. It's a 5/3. Gets you field control. If they want to attack, it can block for 5 attack damage on their 5 health units or less. Or if it's early game, then you can you can trade with it. Like if it's a 3 mana, let's say you play this and they play like I don't know, a 3/3. I don't think it's 2 a 3/3. You can just attack and do 2 chip damage and they lose their field. You're just kind of pressuring their Nexus a little bit, which is very good. A lot of times with Diana, if she's leveled up, you can hook their guy that can block this 5/3, and then they're forced to block the Crescent Guardian with like a 2/1 or something, or a 2/2, and then you get huge chip damage and it lives. That's when you get the best value. Those scenarios like won't be that common during early mid game, but during late game it can get a lot of value if you can just pull away the things that block this well, and then they're just forced to like block and take 2 and then leave this here, and then next turn you attack with it again, or you can still block with it when it has 5 attack. It's pretty much like I use Shadestalker and Crescent Guardian to hold the board down. But you just kind of play him as like slowly. It's like if you just play Crescent Guardian and you don't attack with him, yeah, he's not like doing anything crazy. But if you just have him like sit down there, and the next turn you play like another Crescent Guardian and like a Stygian Onlooker, and like let's say it's their turn, you play Crescent Guardian, they attack, you pass whatever. They're like, okay, so Crescent Guardian, and you play another one, Stygian Onlooker, like Diana. And then it's like out of nowhere, like these Crescent Guardians that were just a 5/3 overwhelm. Yeah, it's pretty good, but nothing too scary. Now, combined with all these other cards, you're pushing in like huge damage. So, very good. Next cards, Doom. So I'm excited to get to these cards. These cards are pretty spicy. And then I'll go over like Mulligans and like the playstyle a bit. So Doom Beast, drain 2 from the enemy Nexus, give you 2. There you go, Stalking Shadows again because it gives you 4 reach to their Nexus. I usually play this on defense. Like on offense, as 3/2, they can just like block it or whatever. But if you play it on defense, then you get to drain 2, and you usually can trade the Doom Beast's 3 attack into like a 3 health or less unit that's more important than it. Because like Nightfall is an on-play effect, so it already got its value the second it drains something. So you just want to drain something, then get value out of trading it. If you attack with it, a lot of times they'll just block it with like a 2/1 or a 2/2, like a 1 mana creature or a 2 mana creature, and this costs 3. So you just want to like play this, get the drain, and then use it on their 2 health units. It's very good with Fading Memories to have in the field because it like you can just keep playing it as a 3/2 drain blocker, and you just keep slowly whittling their health away, and then it messes up all their attacks because like they're just gonna attack into ephemeral cards. So a lot of times I'll Fading Memories into this to start my Nightfall trigger for my turn, do my Nightfalls, and on their turn they summon. I do a Nightfall trigger and play this as a blocker. You drain 2. They either don't attack and they lose their whole attack, or they do attack and you just use this as a blocker, and then like you get so much value out of it. So very good during the late games. A lot of times you want to put them in ranges of Doom Beast as long as you have enough left in the deck to like reliably get. So yeah, pretty good. All right, Lunar Priestess. Let's talk about those cards. A lot of people think this So a lot of people play this deck as an aggro deck or think it's an aggro deck. So they're like, oh, I don't get why you play Lunar Priestess. It just seems like you lose so much tempo. It doesn't seem very good. Okay, this card's phenomenal, and I'll explain why. You use this card, usually only summon it turns 5+. A lot of matchups this format, like Aurelion Soul Trundle and Aurelion Soul Leona, and like Lux, Leona, and all kinds of stuff, regularly go. I mean, like almost in most matchups, even like Swain, Twisted Fate, and all kinds of things. Like they go to game or turns 7+, and if you can't finish them off, if you say you don't have the card in your deck, right? If you don't finish them by turn 7+, or try and like finish them like Nocturne or Cygnus, let's say they stop you. Which is regular, right? That happens like half the time. Then you lose because you don't have any steam. But this card gives you the late game, and you just play this in your idle time, like later in the turns, like 5+. Like a lot of the time, you'll have 6-7 mana, and you'll have a bunch of these like later in the game, and you'll have a bunch of these units like Lunar Shadestalker, Crescent Guardian. They aren't really accomplishing anything too much for late game. Then you just have 3 extra mana. You just play this, and you have to be a Nightfall trigger, and you can get like the Destroyer or the Great Beyond or the Phoenix, the Mortal Fire, to finish them off. And it's amazing. You can get written in the stars, which is very good with this deck because it's a Nightfall trigger by itself. So it activates Diana and Nocturne's effects, and then you can just like play like a 1 mana. Like a 1 mana Diana is so good because she's like, it's just so cheap. You just play her, and she's usually leveled up at this point because it's later in the game. You just play her, and then she's just like a 5/3 challenger quick attack for 1, and you just like clear the board. And then if you use 1 more Nightfall effect, she becomes a 7/3 quick attack challenger, which can kill like anything for free. Like this can kill Swain for free, like just stuff like that. It's so good. So this can get you that. This can get you the Serpent, because the Serpent is a Nightfall trigger. It's a. Here, I'll just go into the cards real quick. Actually, I don't actually know how to do this. Okay, click the wrong button. Is it this one? This one. All right. All right. So it can give you the Serpent. This is a 2/1 challenger for 0, which is a Nightfall trigger. So this activates Nightfall. This can activate Nightfall, but even, like, you get to cater your hand to whatever you want. Let's say if you're late in the game, but you need more Nightfall triggers. Like your hand's powerful. You have Nocturne. You have like Diana. All kinds of good stuff. But you don't have a Nightfall trigger. You can do the Serpent. This clears a card and it's a Nightfall trigger. It's a cheap Nightfall trigger. Lets you draw a card. If they can't stop elusives much in their deck, this can go for game. Simple removal. This go in the mirror match. This usually gets 2 kills in this matchup. This card's amazing. The Golden Sisters usually just wins the game because it's amazing. It's a 6-drop summons. Here you can get the Comet if you need removal. You can get your end game, like your finisher. This is usually what you get is like the Destroyer, Immortal Fire, Living Legends, or Great Beyond. And you just finish them off. So it just makes it so a deck like games that you don't run Iron Priestess, you would have just straight up lost because you ran it like regularly. I'm telling you, regularly in this format. I'm sure you guys have experienced it. Games go to turn 7+, and then your deck runs out of steam and you lose. And it's kind of like an all-in commitment. But with like the Iron Priestess, I'm saying again, this isn't an aggro deck. I play this as a mid-range deck. Then you have the late game and you just finish them off and you win. You win like half the games I win with Iron Priestess. If I didn't run Iron Priestess, I would have just lost. I worded that poorly. Half of the games I play, I would lose if I didn't have the Iron Priestess in my deck because I wouldn't make to the. I wouldn't finish them off before turn 7 and 8, and then we couldn't beat them in the late game. We would lose. But usually by like 7 or 8, they're already at decently low health, so even a card like the Great Beyond is enough to finish them and stuff like that. Living Legends is very, very good in this deck because you just play this. Nightfall trigger, by the way. You just play this and you just use like the Serpent to like clear some of their blockers, and then you play this like Nocturne and maybe like I don't know like this or this, and then you can just like hook away their cards that can block the Fearsomes with Nocturne, and then you just like kill them. This card's very good. Even like Living Legends, you get to do turns where like you play this, plus this, like plus like draw a card. It's like pretty powerful. You can stun their cards, their blockers if you want. If they don't have any cards in hand, to just replace them. This card's insane. So yeah, very good. Bigger card. So yeah, I think if you have the deck as an all-in, or not all-in aggro, but as like a more aggro variant, and you just want to have it be more aggressive without Lunar Priestess, I get that, and you will win. But keep in mind, that will give the deck an aggro spread matchup type deck. So it'd be like similar to, let's say, like aggro spider. I mean, obviously it's different. It's a whole different deck. But there are things in this game, there are decks in this game, and matchups in this game, and cards in this game that beat aggro. Like if you play them, and your opponent's playing aggro, they just get destroyed, right? And that's a situation to be put in without Lunar Priestess for the end game. They'll play cards that are good against you, like Avalanche or like Star Shaping, if the game's like close and you don't have too much field control, and you'll just lose because you have no late game and you run out of steam. A lot of people tell me they run out of steam in this deck, but most people don't play the Lunar Priestess, and I think that she's very good. Just in short, counts for like Nocturne level up, stuff like that. But yeah, late game, she can cater to whatever you need. Play her mid late game. Mid game if you have extra mana, but you usually don't want to lose tempo, so she's more of like a turn 6, getting ready for turn 7, 8. Alright, next card is Nocturne. This card is amazing. A lot of people don't think it's amazing, and it's interesting. I like to say why I think it's good, I guess. So as a 4 cost, you play Nightfall, right? You activate Nightfall activator, it's Faded Memories, Stygian Soldier, what have you, and then you grant an enemy vulnerable, right? So this is already like a removal type thing, like with Sejuani. What you can do, this is very common for me, you Fading Memories on like a Stygian Soldier, right? and then the next turn you can like play that as a 3/3 ephemeral, so it would die at the end of the turn. But you give something vulnerable, right? And then you get to use the 3/3 ephemeral to trade into one of the real cards. So this generates an advantage because you're using a free card that was already going to die for a trade, and it's very good to get a free trade like that. You can also use it. So usually, here I'll just explain how I usually play the card. Usually I hold this card to be the very last card in my hand I summon. I'll start off the turn with like, let's say it's turn 7, around 7, 8, yeah. I'll start off with this, get the Daybreak, ephemeral, right? Swap Fading Memories. Then next I'll play like maybe a Crescent Guardian or a Shadestalker or something like that. I also play Danaas a lot, but I play her before Nocturne. Nocturne's usually always last for me. Let's say I play like Shadestalker, they develop like a Petty Officer or something. So that's what, 3 mana? And then you'll play Nocturne, and you make their whole field -1. You'll give vulnerable to the card that... So the vulnerable is permanent, it's not for the round, even though... so the -1, -0 is only for round. This is a permanent vulnerable, right? So if you're not going to kill them this turn, you just want to give it to something like that you really want to kill later. Like the most important card. Like, let's say their field's all weenies, and for example, Petty Officer's their best card you want to kill. So you just get Petty Officer so you can kill them later. But let's say you're pushing for damage. You give their whole field -1, -0. Then you attack, and then your guys are fearsome. So like they can't block you, and you push for like huge damage. This is 6 damage by itself. With the Stygian, that's 9, and then plus let's say the Shadestalker in this instance it's 11. You're pushing 11 damage. So like they're already in Doombeast lethal range. Like that's why it's so. Another reason it's so important in this deck is like even if you didn't kill them, let's say this puts them like 4, 5, 6. You put them at like super low health to where they're in lethal range of like a Stalking Shadow Doombeast or like a Doombeast or like an attack. What have you. You have Cygnus to finish off the elusives. You have Shadestalkers. You can push for damage to the Pale Cascades with the elusives. It really opens them up to where you have so many win conditions in your deck. But turns over. They didn't die, whatever. They're super low. Then, every time they play a unit, you just summon your own unit, and then their whole field -1, -0. So, like, they can't beat you. Like, in a mid-range matchup, they usually can't beat you because it just ruins their all attack. Even if they play something really powerful. Let's say they play, like, Genevieve or, like, Cytherea the Bold. If you play this and then play like another creature, it's so powerful. It like ruins a lot of their attack. And that's one of the best examples I can even think of like against this. But let's say they play Cytherea, the Bold. Then you play this, they mouse attack, they attack, and they gain it back from Cytherea's effect. You're then able to be a bit more lenient with like your blocks, so you don't have to block with things you don't want to, and you can use them for pressure later. Like a lot of time I don't like to sacrifice field control with this deck, and I like to just take Nexus hits on myself. Because I know, okay, even if they put me at like 4, put me at 6, I'll just kill them next turn. So I just don't have to block everything, and I won't trade that much. Or, okay, well, let's heal back with Doombeast, so it's fine. Like, they're in lethal range, like, they can't heal back. The deck doesn't have cards that heal back. Mine does. I'll just play Doombeast. And, like, again, Doombeast is very, very common, because if you just see 1, you can Fading Memories it. If you Stalking Shadow, you get 2. So, like, this can push, like, if you put them at, like, low health, this can get the Great Beyond, the 8/8 Elusive, the Phoenix. This can push for a lot of damage, which we'll get into. You have Shadestalkers, Pale Cascades. Then if they don't kill Nocturne, then you get to the next turn just summon, like, 2, 3 units. Like, let's say they have 6 blockers at the end of it, but you made it so 2 of them can't block, or 3 of them can't block. You're going to chip in the damage and kill them, right? Especially if you can hook away something that, let's say something earlier, could block Fearsomes you hooked away earlier with the Ephemeral. It's very good because you can even if like say I have Swain, right, and you vulnerable to Swain, you can attack with the Stygian Soldier and hook with the Ephemeral, and then just get rid of the only blocker that could block, which say it's Swain here, and then you're pushing for 6 plus whatever the other unit have. You can say it's 6, pushing for 8. The next turn he's still vulnerable, so when you attack again, he's already down 8. You just hook him away, like you make all the guys lower. You hook away their Swain again and attack for game. It's great. His champ spell is also amazing. It's Unspeakable Horror, which is an amazing card in this deck. So yeah, hope that helped out a bit. You usually only want to play this on turns where it's either going to be game or a guaranteed huge swing. You can use it defensively to make as a skitterer and give something vulnerable, so then like they end their turn and then next turn you just get a good trade on like one of their best units or whatever. You get a free trade with the ephemeral units that you got off the Stalking Shadows or the Fading Memories or just in general. Like one thing I like to do is that I can hook something on defense. And let's say it's 4 health and it's a very good unit, then next turn you can just play Stygian Onlooker. And you trade a 1 mana unit into one of their like really strong like 4 or 5 mana units. And it's so much value. Like, this card can be used as Sejuani just for value, the vulnerable. But most of the time I want to play this very last for the turn. I want to use it on a turn where they're mostly tapped out or near tapped out. Let's say we're both at 4 mana. and I know if I play Nocturne, whatever they use their 4 mana isn't going to be like that great against like trying to stop my attack. Like sure, they can play like a unit that has like a 3 attack or something, but they're just going to block one thing, and it won't matter because like this says 4 health, and regularly they'll play like a card for 4 mana that has like the 3 health, and then it can do this. And even if they do block this a lot of the time, you're still pushing for so much damage or like getting a good trade. So I feel like if you're smart with this and try and play it like near the end, you can win so many games. There's honestly like many games, I don't say most games, but many games without Nocturne, I just don't think you could win. I straight just don't think that could win. Like versus Swain Twisted Fate, they regularly will have fields with a lot of blockers from Petty Officer, or like versus Ezra's Twisted Fate, they regularly have fields with a lot of blockers from Petty Officer, and then they'll play like Swain or whatever, and then you'll just like play this, and then they'll be screwed. Especially if they've already used Twisted Fate, then you know they can't like play a unit to gold card you, and they'll have to use removal on this. But if they don't have Thermal Beam, there's actually not that many cards that do the 3 damage. Like sometimes they'll play Get Excited as Twisted Fate, or they don't have it. With Swain Twisted Fate, they have to have Fervor, because let's say they don't have the ability to stun and also do this. Because let's say they're like, oh, I want to flock that, right? I'll make it rain. So they can damage you and then use flock on it, right? If they use make it rain when you play it, then you get to attack before they get to use flock. So your creatures are fearsome during the battle. Even if they kill with flock, they don't. The fearsome's already activated. Like all your creatures already have the fearsome that was given by level it up Nocturne. Because this levels up on attack, by the way. It is straightforward, but I guess a lot of times you don't notice it at first. Like if this is like 3 out of 5, or even 2 out of 5, you just vulnerable to the enemy, make them all -1. Then right when you declare attack, it instantly levels up, giving all your guys fearsome. So this lets you just swing for like 12 plus damage easily against Swain Twisted Fate and Ezra's Twisted Fate. It's actually more difficult to remove for them than you'd think. So it's very powerful. And even if they were to Fervor, a lot of times it's inconvenient. I just think there's many ways to scout out their mana or bait them into overcommitting. Like there are times also where like these decks, Ezra's Twisted Fate and Swain Twisted Fate, will play Yordle Grifter, because like they don't think you're just gonna drop like some huge bomb and like kill them like for 4 mana. Like they don't think they're gonna die for 4 mana. They think, okay, I'll play my turn for Yordle Grifter, and it'll be fine just to block some of their guys, get a trade, and then next turn I'll just like regain the field and I'll have like so much advantage off the free steal, get my warning shot ready for that Rex later, and all kind of just, it's a good turn for them to play Yordle Grifter in terms of the tempo they're in, because they're not too far behind. Then bam, you play Nocturne, and they can't block the Yordle Grifter anymore, and you just kill them in 1 turn on like so early. It's so good. This isn't a turn 4 play, it's just later. Because I think a lot of people think this game too black and white when they're theory crafting. You can put in a lot of scrambles. If you've watched people play, you see that there's like infinitely many scrambles that are put in this game, and I think a lot of people pick the Nocturne that great because they don't realize that there are many scrambles in this game and many decision-making turns where there are mixtures of cards like turn 7 or turn 6, you play Luminary Priestess plus Crescent Guardian and stuff like that. They would just think, oh, 6 cost, that's a sit 3 turn. Like this, it's turn 8, like this and that. Like this card is good turn 8 and 9. Like you just play like Crescent Guardian and like Diana, and then you just play Nocturne, and then half their field can't block, and then Diana hooks away their big threat, or the vulnerable hooks away one of their threats. Diana kills the other threat with Challenger Quick Attack, and then you just push in for what, 11 damage, 6 plus 5 or more if you already have creatures. Because a lot of times there's stalemates where like you have these Dustbringers and these soldiers and they have their 2 attack units. So you don't want to just lose your blockers. You kind of just like, because you don't mind keeping the field wide. It doesn't bother you because you could just play Nocturne and like kill them. So you just have to do that like late. If they try to remove it certain times, you can Pale Cascade it, push for more damage, draw a card, it lives. I mean, if they remove it, it's not really that big a deal anyway, because let's say they use let's say you play it and they do use Thermal Beam, right? Okay, so they're using, let's say it's perfect for them to get max value. They use a 3 mana Thermal Beam for a 4 mana Nocturne, right? Whatever. But then you still made their whole field -1, which helps you trade, but you gave their a guy vulnerable. So then you'll get an amazing trade. Even if it's something as simple as you now made a card a 2/2, and you can attack with Crescent Guardian on it. And then you get a free +1 plus some chip damage. Which, again, every damage is very important in this deck because of the Elusives and Doom Beasts and Unspeakable Horror and the reach you have. So I think this play Nocturne is very powerful, and many matchups you just can't without him, and I think he's way better than he looks. He's like really good. Last card, Cygnus the Moonstalker. I like having this card as reach It's a top end reach, and one ofs are a bit better in this deck. I mean, this is my 40th cards, so it had to be one of. But the way to build up 3 of everything else. But with Stalking Shadows, if you hit this, then you get two copies of it. So you actually get to see it play multiple times, although it's just a one of. But yeah, give me an ally loose this round. This is easy to push for 7. This is a very simple play you can do with this. Is like Doom Beast on the turn prior, does 2 damage with the drain. Then next turn you Nightfall trigger and you play Cygnus, and then you put on the Doom Beast, and that's 9 total. 2 from the drain last turn, 3 attack here, 4 attack here. This goes through a lot. A lot of times this is like your win condition. Especially versus like mid-range decks, they just can't deal with it. Even against like Switch's Fate, they won't always have ways to stop these things. One big combo doesn't happen too frequently, but it's huge, and it's a very big reason why I like including the one of here too, is that when you have level up Diana, she regularly, and I mean regularly, easily, effortlessly gets to 7 to 9 attack, right? So let's say she's leveled up. This is a simple play. You use your Nightfall trigger and play Cygnus, right? Cygnus effect activates, activate Nightfall. That makes Diana a 5/3, and you give her the elusive, of course, and that's 9. You're pushing for 9 damage just on turn 6. Just 9 damage elusive. If they can't stop the elusives, it's game. And that's later in the game. You can easily get her past the 5. Let's say you just do one more Nightfall trigger. That's 7. You're now pushing for 11 damage. That's so powerful. It's very, very powerful. So yeah, even with Diana, other ways you can like put the Cygnus on like Nocturne or like say Doom Beast, and then you can make Diana pull away their Nightfall, their elusive blocker. So then you get the guaranteed Doom Beast plus Cygnus Nightfall, or Doom Beast plus Cygnus elusive attack, which pulls away the elusive blocker. So very good reach. I think without this card in your deck, you lose a lot of win conditions, and it hurts. Like having this as a one of as your top end helps deck overall because Stalking Shadows will make it so you see it slightly more often. Still not that high of chance of seeing it because it's only a one of. You only see top 4 cards. And if you do see it, you get to see it multiple times. So let's say you have a win condition where you play this, you get Stalking Shadows with this. You play it on Doom Beast, and they kill this or something, like whatever. And you attack for 3 elusive. Then the next turn, so they're just removal on Cygnus. Then the next turn you get to attack, you can bait some stuff out, and then play Cygnus again on like, let's say like this or like this. Then you're pushing for like either 6 or 11 elusive damage after they already used the removal for the elusive, while also taking the 3 elusive from here, because let's say they removed Cygnus the previous turn, they still took 3 here, and then next turn you just do like 11 more. It's so much damage, like it's amazing. And with Pale Cascade, it's even more, and you draw cards. It's great. It's a good time. So that's the deck. I guess I'll very briefly. How long has this video been going? Okay, that's very long. I guess I'll very briefly go through the mulligans and like the play style. I'll make this like very, very quick last second thing. You wanna mulligan for Lunary Dustbringer or Stygian Onlooker. These are your 2 main Nightfall activators, and like this one isn't. This one relies on other cards. You need to have other cards like this to even use this, and it's not a body. So you want to mulligan for these. I don't really keep this. I don't really like to use this as a Nightfall trigger. It's just kind of underwhelming. I think that I would hard mulligan for these. You always want Diana. She's good like pretty much all the time. Against matchups like PNC, that like Ezreal, maybe she's not as great because they can easily Mystic Shot her. But any other matchup, she's phenomenal and very versatile. And even on turns you can play her, you don't have to. You can wait until like they have a card of value to kill, and then you can just play her. Because they're like, oh, he didn't kill my like 2/2 with this. He's probably not Diana because he would have done it for free. And then they play something like more committal, and then you just like play this, Pale Cascade, and then kill something actually good. And then they're like, oh shoot. So yeah, I like to mull for these. Diana's good. I usually mull away Pale Cascade despite it being the best cards in the deck. I don't know if this is right, but I think people probably just keep this. It just breaks your opening hand. Like, it relies on other cards. It's actually quite expensive, the 2 mana, for a very early game card. You usually don't use this card until turns 3, 4 plus, so I just think that I want to mulligan to make sure I get my Nightfall activators, because this deck clearly, like, all these cards rely on other cards to work. Like, to get these Nightfall effects, you quite literally need to have another card to function. So, if I already have a good hand, I'll definitely keep it, though. If I already have, like, this and this. If I already have Diana and a Nightfall trigger, then this is, like, the nuts. I'll have, like, this, too. Stalking Shadows, I usually always keep this, except for against tempo matchups or, like, aggro. If I'm against, like, an aggro spider deck or, like, Lulu Demacia, especially, I don't keep this because, like, you actually don't have time to use the 2 mana on, like, it doesn't affect the board that much because they're constantly going to be trying to fight for the board in tempo, and even their spells they use will be like single combat or like riposte and stuff, and there'll be things that are battle tricks, and then you won't even really get to the point where you have to play these much. This is a great Nightfall trigger, so it depends on how good your hand is, but usually you always want to see this in every matchup except aggro. Sometimes aggro maybe you could keep it depending on how good your hand is, but these cards are the best cards on deck, so yeah. Nightfall trigger, that's broken. Any mid-range matchup, you just like win because you get more cards than them for free, and it's amazing. So very good, very good. This could you can keep this in your mulligan against certain matchups. You don't always. This isn't a card. This is a card I mulligan away. It's kind of like Pale Cascade. But if you're playing against again Lulu Demacia, where you know they're gonna play One Witch or Fleet Tracker, and you can just play this and win, then you keep this for sure. So I do that in that matchup. I'll keep this. Any other matchup that this could be very potent in, especially early game, because you don't want to break in your hand, then you could keep it in. But against like say you're playing Ash Edge, they only hits one card. Well, it hits Ice Fletcher. Maybe you keep it against them, but even then, don't think this card's like an auto keep just because in most matchups, just because it's very good. So I usually keep this, 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 and this. Those are the 4 cards I would mulligan for. I wouldn't really keep anything else. I mean, if you already have a good hand, let's say your hand's like Dustbringer, Diana, you can keep Crescent Guardian for 1, 2, 3 curve. If you're attacking on 2, because you get Diana value. Or even if you just play Dustbringer and then turn 2 you pass for Diana, then turn 3 you play Crescent Guardian, later you use Diana and you have the 2 mana banked for like Nightfall triggers and stuff. I've lately been mulling this card away because you don't normally play it on 2, because let's say you play, I mean, you can play it on 2 if you have Dustbringer. Let's say you don't have Dustbringer, you have Slayer Soldier. You want to save that. You don't want to play this on 1 because you want to save it for like turn 3 as your Nightfall activator, right? So you just pass turn 1. Turn 2, you can't play Soldier and then Shadestalker because that's 3 mana. You only have 2, so you can only place a 2/3 with no effect, which you don't want to do either. So it just kind of makes the hands awkward. You usually play this on turns 3, 4 plus, mostly 4 plus, I think, but it depends. So I usually don't keep this card. I mull this away in all matchups. This is a card you want to play like turns like 4 or 5 plus, like pretty mid-late game. Even if it's good in the matchup, you'll get it later, like for sure, because like you have so many ways to get it in turns to draw and Stalking Shadows. But like if your hand's already amazing, then maybe you could keep it. But let's say your hand's like Doom Beast, like Pale Cascade, like Stygian Onlooker, like you probably just want to mull like all those and try and get an actual good hand, because this card is a brick for the most part early game. It's just a 3-cheap for 3. Against a pure burn deck that wasn't as field control oriented, then you could keep this. But a lot of times you want to beat burn by like stuffing up the early aggression with by getting board. Like this, Diana can destroy like these early aggro decks. Like let's say you're playing spiders, like play Precious Pet, you play this, whatever, you take 2. Next turn you play the Petal, play Diana, kill their Precious Pet. Then if they don't have release, then you already took over the board, and then all their damage is stopped, and you just win. Like you win by just getting the board against aggro very easily, because a lot of the aggro decks right now are more unit based, where you fight for the board early. If you were to have Doom Beast, then you would just play Dustbringer, and then they would attack you, and then you take it, and then turn 3, you play Doom Beast, or yeah, and then they would just attack you again, and like the 2 damage would be so minuscule, that the drain, like it would help the tempo, but overall you'd lose the board, and then they just keep pushing and getting wider for more damage because you weren't able to take the board over. So you want to take the board over and have strong openings like that. You can keep this in your mulligan against elusive decks like the Encroaching Shadows. Elusive decks try and cheese you with like these elusives and stuff. You can just keep this as a blocker because a lot of their deck thrives off them knocking blockers. Oh, this is also amazing against Green Glade Duo decks. Very amazing. And there's one with like Silent Shadow Seer going around. The 3/1 Ephemeral elusive. This card's phenomenal versus that deck. But very good for Green Glade Duo. You can keep this versus elusives for sure. It hits a lot of the cards, especially like Team elusives. You see that. I haven't seen it in this format, but yeah. In terms of how to play the deck, I just say make sure you have your 2. You want to play your next 2-3 turns in advance, not just the Nightfall activators. You want to plan out the entire turn, but of course things will always change based on what they do. But you want to generally have an idea of what you think's going to happen and kind of plan for that. But you definitely want to, at the very least, plan out your next 2-3 turns of Nightfall activators. You also mostly pass the first few turns, especially without like if you have a Dustbringer, Diana attacking on 2, and they play a 1-drop, then yeah, you can play this, get the Petal. And I said you use a Petal and to play Diana, kill their guy. But a lot of times you'll be passing your first 2 turns. You don't really want to like waste your stuff. So I think, especially with Stalking Shadows in your hand, as a Nightfall trigger and like making mana to use this, I think that most of the time you're passing your first 2 turns. This is what I'm saying. This is not an aggro deck. It's a mid-range deck. It fights for field control. It has late game with the Linear Priestess, and it has the reach with other things. It's mid-range. I think the biggest pick people are playing is aggro. One hand where you would play aggressively is turn 1 you pass, turn 2 you play Soldier, and then Onlooker. If, again, say you play like Warships or whatever, and you can't deal with it. That's a turn. But even then, you're passing turn 1. You see what I'm saying? I think if you treat it like aggro, most people might feel like they're inclined to summon this on turn 1, and it'd be weird. Like, you'd rather just pass turn 1. Like, it's more about getting the Nightfall off than doing, like, this chip damage. Because, like, even if you do huge chip damage, a lot of times this format, again, if they have Avalanche or, like, they regain the field somewhat, and then you attack, and then they play Star Shaping, they heal 5, and you're screwed. If you commit to the board, they can Ice Quake your whole field and kill it, and you lose. But if you don't commit to the board and you open attack, they can Star Shaping, and then they heal, and then they take over they can heal again next turn with, like, something. They have another one, or, like, Guiding Touch, or what have you. Then, I mean, if you have, like, crazy pressure, you'll beat them. But as an aggro deck, you can only you're not going to open, like, crazy all the time. Like, again, if you play this in an aggro deck, you're going to have an aggro deck matchup spread. And you will lose to a lot of tier 1 decks and popular decks of this format with that strategy, without having the more mid-range style of the deck, I think. In my experience, in theory, personally. But yeah, you pass the first few turns, and then on turn 3, when you have bank spell mana, like full spell mana, you want to start popping off using your triggers. It doesn't matter if you take the early game damage. Let's say in the first few turns you take like 4 or 5 damage. That's fine, because then turn 3 you just like take the board. Diana, clear the cards. Even if you don't Diana, you can just turn 3 you just can play this, play a Petal, then play this, or you can if you have enough triggers to do all that and you don't, like, for the future turns and you don't mind wasting them. Or you can honestly just do simple stuff as just playing this, or like playing this, and playing this. Because you know that later you can just drain back some of the health with Doom Beasts. Especially if you Stalking Shadows of Doom Beasts, so it's fine. And generally speaking, you'd actually be able to kill them first in most mid-range matchups just because you can push for such huge damage on a whim. Like, let's say they're at 16. You can go Diana, kill one of their cards, chip one of the elusives, get the Crescent in, or Doom Beast on defense, like heal back. Then on your turn, like Nocturne, like play this and that, like get rid of their like all their like their fearsome other cards, get rid of their big threat, and attack for a bunch of fearsome units, and like they can't come back from that. You can very easily like snap and swing the board control in your favor, and I think that that's what's very powerful with this deck. Playing as mid-range deck, strike when the time's right, and you really you can take the board over in your favor and push huge damage, and they can't win because their deck doesn't have the ability to pop off like that, and yours does, which is great. And you can also put them like Cygnus range, Doom Beast range. Like, you don't have to be fighting. If you fight this early game aggro type of playstyle, you will run out of steam. And I regularly have people ask me, I like this deck a lot, but I feel like it's just not that great. I always run out of steam. Are you sure it's like really good? And I just tell them, it's a mid-range deck. You strike when the time's right. You set up your turns. You pass the first few turns a lot of the time. Like, I pass the 3 like a lot most of the time, honestly. Sometimes I won't. Like, again, I've set the scenarios where I don't play Shade Stalker. Like, on sometimes I don't know. That's not even on 3. Yeah. So I usually just plays a mid-range deck. I think if you play too aggro, you run out of steam. If you don't run Linear Priestess, you run out of steam. And I hope that helps you figure out a bit more how to play the deck. You got to really think ahead. And this deck's super fun. It's one of the most fun decks I've ever played, and it's very rewarding when it clicks. Like, when it clicks, and you feel like you're really starting to understand the deck, and you're playing everything right, it feels so fun. It feels so rewarding. But this video's got very long. It's almost an hour. I did not realize that. I talk way too much. I will make a video on this tomorrow with gameplay, doing turn-by-turn actions, and saying why I do things, and how to play the match. Oh, also, you need to learn the matchups in this deck. Every matchup's different. Like, when to overcommit, when to undercommit. It's why it's a mid-range deck. You can be versatile. Like, certain matchups, you pressure them very hard. Like, if they're aggro, you can, like, or mid-range, sometimes you can pressure them, you know they can't come back from it. But if they're, like, playing, like, Ace Trundle, you kind of have to gauge your hand and, like, how you think the game's going to go based on your first or second, and say, okay, is this one of these matchups for Ace Trundle where I have to push really hard and try and get them killed before they stabilize? Or is it one of those matchups where I'm like, okay, my hand's not that powerful. If I summon cards, I can just Avalanche me and it's over. I really need to play the longer game. Chip in some damage midway, get the board control a little bit, but don't commit too hard to Avalanche, then play Priestess later, and then try and go for like a big swing and kill them in one turn with Nocturne when like the time's right as my finisher. So you got to really like map out the matchups, but you'll get the hang of it. It's a new set, everyone's learning. So I think this deck, so far, I haven't had any bad matchups, really. People might be wondering that. I haven't had any bad matchups, really. I don't think there's any matchups that just hard beat this. I think that this deck's flexible to the point where if you play well and learn the matchups, you can at least do good against all of them. I'm sure it has losing matchups, but it's truly in the format for me to know what they are. Like versus Asol, Trundle, popular one, I win some, I lose some. Versus all things, I win some, I lose some. Mostly I win most of my games versus most matchups, but it's too early to tell. I think right now, week 1 meta, this team is winnable against everything. Like I don't think there's a deck I can't beat. I've beaten every tier 1 deck that's been played, I'd say most of the time. So, because I've just been learning the matchups a lot. And we'll see how that goes moving forward, but I think this deck will be very good. I think it'll be tier 2 at least, and potentially be tier 1. So yeah, there's the video. Thanks for watching. I'll be on Twitch. I stream daily at 6:30 EST every day. Feel free to check in and watch me play. I'm currently rank 1 North America. I'm going to go for Master EU or rank 1 EU, or maybe I'll just keep playing and hold down rank 1 NA. We'll see, but hope to see you guys there. Feel free to follow for the videos in the future. I'm going to make other analytical deck guides, hopefully quicker. This was an hour-long video. But yeah, I will be doing the gameplay video tomorrow and more. So see you guys later.